Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Richards. I'm a manufacturing architect with Owens Cornings. What that means is I draw a lot of pictures and fortunately don't have to do a whole lot of work. Make things nice. It's 35 degrees warmer here than Toledo, Ohio, and sunny, so I'm definitely very happy to be here. I'm talking about IT, OT convergence. Each of my slides has a little bit of a story. So the story for this slide is apples and foie gras. But I'm talking a little bit about our view and our thinking on IT, OT, and convergence, what we've done and what we'd like to do going forward. IT and OT is really not an apples to apples comparison, right? It's more like apples and foie gras. They're both foods, and I like both of them. I really like apples, and apples grow naturally, and obviously they're very suitable for vegetarians. Foie gras is also a food. I also like it a lot, but it's produced in a completely different way, and it's definitely not vegetarian, right? It's a non-vegetarian food, but they're both foods, right? One's more natural, one's more artificial, people would say, but that's very similar to IT and OT. They're different. There are some similarities. In the case of the apples and the foie gras, they're both food. But for the most part, they're very different things. Part of this is to showcase some of the challenges in trying to get these two things to connect. All right. Also talk about conversation. As part of this format, we're not allowed to have a real conversation, but the reason I put that up there is twofold. One, conversation is the answer on how to get IT and OT to communicate. It's really, in our opinion, a people problem more than anything else. And the conversation between the two is the first place to start. Over and above technology, over and above data, over and above information. It's really about the conversation. And the next few slides go into what that means. Also conversation in terms of not having this be the end of the presentation that I'm doing here. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I think we're here to share, get feedback on our ideas on how to do this. We've been doing it to some extent for a number of years, but it is a challenging environment, especially as Craig pointed out, it's not just IT and OT anymore. It's soon to be the addition of industrial Internet of Things in the wings, right? So. All right, so the story on this is my safety slide. When you guys leave today, go home, and Monday and next week and the week after, you're going to probably be in your cars a fair bit. And when you're in your cars, you're probably going to be very tempted, as I am sometimes, to take out your smartphone and text or talk on your phone. Or if you have Bluetooth-capable cars, you're going to want to do it over Bluetooth, right? So it's a lot safer, quote unquote, maybe safer, to have the conversation on your Bluetooth device in the car. We had partnered with the National Safety Council that shows that any use of mobility while you're mobile in a car is really not a good idea. So I would encourage all of you to Google the term cognitive distraction. Talking on a cell phone, even if you're not holding it in your hand, is very different than listening to the radio or even having a conversation with someone present in the car, because it actually takes your mind away from your first priority, which is driving. So just wanted to throw that out there as a safety share. If you Google cognitive distraction, there's a bunch of links that come up. So if you remember one thing about Owens Cornings, remember cognitive distraction. The rest of the slide is typical stuff. Owens Cornings makes glass fiber. All of our different production processes in some way, shape, or form use glass fiber, except one, which uses an extruded polymer. But glass fiber is really foundational for us. We found it by accident, by the way, and that's how the company was founded. But we found ways to do things with it we're still here after 76 years now, 60 of which we've been on the Fortune 500. As of putting this slide together, we had $5.3 billion in sales in 2013. We announced results today, and it was flat year over year, so at $5.3 billion in 2014 as well. 15,000 employees, roughly 70, 80, or to 80 plants, depending on how you count them. 27 countries. And we won the Green Cross for Safety last year, which was quite an honor for us. We've been on this journey trying to copy Dow and DuPont from a safety standpoint for a number of years. And we joined their ranks last year because both of them have been awarded that along with a host of other companies. So we're very proud of that award. And we have 3 main business units, again, all of which use fiberglass in some way, shape, or form. Insulation, it's the fluffy pink stuff. Roofing, the fiberglass is the mat that goes onto roofing shingles to give it structural integrity. And composites, so that's in a variety of uses from windmill blades to marine to light poles, all kinds of things. All right. All right. So the title for this slide is Nina's Kitchen. Nina is my 9-year-old daughter, and for the last 2 years she's been very interested in opening up her own restaurant. She knows she's going to call it Nina's Kitchen. It might even be located in Napa Valley, where Nina French, the previous speaker, is from. She is interested in opening a restaurant because I love food, and I especially like good food, and I especially like French food. And I don't know if you've been to France, but you don't need to go to France. There is a ranking of restaurants in France that follow the Michelin stars. So you have 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. 1 star is outstanding, 2 stars is unbelievable, and 3 stars is literally food of the gods, right? It's almost untouchable. But one of the things that many chefs do, including these chefs that are on these Michelin list, is they follow the practice called mise en place. And what it means is everything in its place. All right, and I thought that was an appropriate term for what we're trying to do here. And it's I guess the art of doing the architecture before the design, and accounting for things that you know about and accounting for things that you may not know about. All right, so in our case, it's the Purdue model, ISA 95, whatever you want to call it. We talk about it in terms of manage the process, manage the plant, and manage the business. And this is how we think we can use this as a successful platform to start the conversation on how to bridge IT and OT. We are not particularly focused on where the data actually lies, whether it's on-premise or off-premise. We know that there's going to be cloud solutions. We have them now. There'll be more in the future. How those little blue bubbles move, we don't really care about. People are less interested in moving process data into the cloud. We're a legacy company, right? We have a lot of legacy control systems and so on. So to do that, it would take a while anyway. But that people are less interested in doing that. At the manage the plant level, people always want to look at data from home and things. So I think they're more apt to want to do that. Manage the business, of course. ERP data, alerts, etc. People are more willing to do that. But again, how those bubbles move, we don't really care about. At the end of the day, humans accessing all of this data needs to be through secure access. And that's really fundamentally what we care about. Right? So again, going back to mise en place, it's everything in its place. Our current thinking is that this can accommodate IT and OT from a convergence standpoint, provide the basis to have the conversation, and at least provide a starting framework to include IoT, all right, which I cover a bit on the next slide. All right. So this slide actually does not have a story. But what we found is at the bottom, if you look at it, it's data source, analytics engine, transfer mechanism. That process can be used to address a variety of things, right? It can be used to address process data getting into a process historian. It can be used to address a combination of production quality and maintenance data getting into a system that you're going to use for data analytics, data mining, video mining, text mining, whatever you want, right? Buzzword of the day. And it can even be used to showcase what IoT means. You're going to take the data, you're going to move it to an analytics engine. Now, some would say that Arrow is a lot smaller. Some would say that Arrow is in the other direction because you're taking the analytics engine to the data. Maybe. But at some point, that individual device that can communicate with whatever it wants to communicate is not going to know everything, right? The Nest thermometers in the smart home and the smart toaster, smart fridge, and that I'm sure are on the horizon are going to know a lot of details about themselves, but they're not going to know details about each other and what the person in the house wants and how the person in the house wants them all to talk together, right? So I think there's still a place for an analytics engine at that level, even in the space of IoT. So even if you move the analytics to the data, there's still going to, in our opinion, be the next level of analytics that's going to need to be addressed. So our contention is that that model really addresses a variety of things. And that's why it's up here, right? So visualization, people are going to be interested in looking at raw data, always, sometimes from a drill down level, sometimes just looking at the raw data, because there's nothing more interesting to do, I guess. People are very interested in looking at the results of analytics, so clearly visualization has a play there. The transfer mechanism, yeah, maybe not so much, right? Maybe not so much. But we are interested also in talking about these three. Another place we're interested in is cybersecurity, right? Each of those needs to be secure. So it's the data and the data source, whatever it is, right? PLCs, sensors, whatever, need to be secure. They need to be secure in flight. The data does need to be secure in flight. And of course, the analytics engine and the associated reporting needs to be secure. The visualization needs to be secure because it can, it does provide a competitive advantage at the end of the day. So that also needs to be secure. And finally, when the user accesses any of this stuff, it needs to be secure. So on some level, this slide does also, is a good starting point for the conversation on cybersecurity. So again, all of this is just our premise that the conversation between IT people and OT people is what's important. And these are pictures, just ways to get them thinking on how to do that. All right. Yeah, this slide is really on cybersecurity. The first two bullets really talk about the prerogative of each of the groups, right? The IT prerogative is really protect the data. And the most important thing above all else is the confidentiality of the data, security of the data, whatever you want to call it, right? Integrity and availability of the data is second and third, but less important than confidentiality. So I think that's a key thing to get. And IT people are extremely interested in the confidentiality of the data, right? And I think even more so going forward once we start to intersect security with privacy, which I cover a little bit at the end, but it's I think a whole other topic. OT, operational technology, people are very interested in protecting the process, right? That's what they do. A plant makes stuff. It only makes stuff by transforming raw materials into the product through the process. So their primary goal is protecting the process, right? Other things are, some people argue that confidentiality is second, availability is third, et cetera, but integrity is first. You need to have the data and you need to have it be precise and accurate. Okay, so their prerogative from an OT standpoint is protect the process. Completely different. It's completely different. What you do in a given circumstance of your OT, what you do in a given circumstance if you're an IT person is different, and it's driven by those two prerogatives. Organizational structure is, again, going back to the core of the issue. How companies set up their organization to deal with how they address IT and OT is important. We've done some org moves over the last few years, multiple, in a different way, shape, or form. Sometimes it makes it easier for the IT and OT groups to come together. Sometimes it makes it less easy. But at the end of the day, I think it always goes back to the conversation because each side is interested in very different things. And I think You need to acknowledge what those are on both sides to start that conversation. All right. Security access. Yeah, so just photography, just using that as an example. You know, back in the day, in the 80s, last millennia, everyone took photographs with cameras that they then processed, and you had those pictures at home in an album. No one knew about them, right? People visited you, you took the album somewhere, that's the only time they get to see those pictures. They were arguably very secure, right? You could make copies, but you had the negatives. So you really had a handle on that data. Access was almost no access because it was just you, right? Now it's almost exactly the opposite. There's unlimited access. I can take a picture from my phone and send it, publish it to Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, and it's all over the place, right? So lots and lots of access of that information, and therefore the security is that. You got to be very concerned about how you move that data outside your device or whatever you take it on. Even cameras, I think, these days have an auto uplink to the cloud. Right, so security and access is important to keep in mind, mainly because IT is very interested in the security side of that equation, and OT is very interested in making sure that they can get at the data and that it has integrity, but making sure that they can access the data, right? Or they're flying blind. You can't have a control room not show you something on a screen in the control room, right? When you have an alarm, you're not typically looking at one screen on your HMI to say, I know exactly what I'm going to do in that alarm situation, right? You're going to do double checks. You're going to check a few other things. You're going to check your video camera to see, oh, is there really glass spewing out of the furnace, right? So I think really security and access is an interesting way to have that conversation as well. Privacy versus security, this is just a blurb. I think we're not super concerned about privacy at the moment, but we think it's on the wings. In some of our plans, for example, we have handprint scanners, right? So inadvertently, whether we know it or not, we are keeping biometric data on our employees, at least for the purposes of making sure that Tom's handprint is different from Debbie's handprint, right? So I think privacy versus security, adding privacy to the equation is going to become more and more important going forward. And again, just a quick description. Security is a lock on the front door. Privacy is blinds on the window, right? You don't care about the blinds on the window first. You care about it second. You care about that lock on the front door first. Some people don't lock their doors in houses, rural communities, etc. You know, and that can also be a concern, right? Why are you not securing your data? Do you think it won't happen to you? We recently had, I live in a relatively safe neighborhood, but we recently had people who were not breaking into cars. They were simply trying to open them, cars parked in the driveway, and just taking whatever they could from the inside. Not vandalism, just opportunistic crime. So, you know, I think it makes you think of, you do need security first, but as soon as you have managed security below the line, if you will, to the point that people are comfortable, the very next thing that's going to be on the wings is privacy. Right. And this is, I think Craig did a great job of highlighting the positives of what can happen with IT and OT convergence. And this is just highlighting some of the things that we see from our standpoint at Owens Corning. From an IT side, reducing silos. If you can get that data that's available, the same data, the one version of the truth that's available to everyone, then you reduce the need for silos. Excel spreadsheets are a silo, for example. Access databases are definitely a silo. So I think reducing that and publishing that one version of the truth can be very powerful. Optimization of business processes. You can optimize a business process, but if that business process touches the plant, and you don't have input from the plant, you're not really optimizing your business process, right? So I think getting visibility to what plants are doing can really help with tweaking the business processes so it's something that's effective, not just that IT is comfortable with. Optimization of the user experience is a core focus for us. If we put in systems and people don't use them, it's complete waste. Should never have done it in the first place. So using the data is critical, and making sure that people can use it is critical. And unfortunately, things like smartphones and Google have really tested our ability to get data to people fast. If you're waiting longer than 5 seconds, you're going to move on to something else. If you're waiting longer than 3 seconds, you may move on to something else, right? So I think that user experience, snappiness, quickness, whatever it takes to deliver is paramount. And then just generally better management of data and processes. When you're looking at one version of the truth, it allows you to really optimize the data side as well as the processes side. On the OT side, more real time for a variety of reasons. There was a presentation I sat on earlier where it said faster decision making. Don't know if we care that much about faster, but we definitely care about better and more effective decision making, right? Whatever that means. So I think more real time gives you that capability to make the decisions better, right, in the time they're needed. Deeper process understanding, that's a direct tie to data analytics in general. And I think our capability to do that is significantly enhanced if we can move the data where the analytics engine lives, wherever that is. Stable operations, at the end of the day, we don't want surprises in our manufacturing facilities. So the more we can move towards low variation, low quality variation, zero quality variation, stable operations, no safety violations, no environmental violations, the better. And then similar to IT, I think it allows you to better manage the data and processes individually in your plans. All right? And that's it. Thanks very much.